Hey, welcome to the Amigos podcast streaming. We are preparing to play Micro League Wrestling, WWF, and their first game, the Amiga version, of course. I'm Aaron. I'll be joined by Boat momentarily. He's getting everything set up and ready to go. This is an interesting game. For those that listen to our last show, we did a review of this. This game has a lot of potential, especially the era it was released, but they did everything right except they forgot to actually have a game in this game, and so you basically randomly do stuff. I mean, we have yet to determine any sort of strategy. Now, I've played a bunch of games and I got nothing. We've got Hulk and Macho set up here. We're going to have a quick go of it. One thing I liked about this was the fact that you could play on a modem, which is interesting. I never did it. I don't know anyone that has, but I'm sure someone did it, and it should still work. I guess if we were to have a couple Amigas and with modems and fire it up, it might be kind of neat. A few bits of advice on this: never play a game longer than 10 minutes, or you'll die of old age. And here comes my partner in crime. You ready to rock and roll, Boat?
I'm ready to go.
I feel the need to whoop a hind here.
All right. Let me make sure that my headphones will not pull the desktop off the table again.
Is my keyboard supposed to do anything at this point? Or?
All right. So you got the keyboard. So
I do have the keyboard.
Now we just
F4.
need to.
That's right. So you go ahead and put yours on. What are you going to be on?
So I'm trying to push.
Yeah, I'm not getting any action here, Boat.
Oh, wait a minute. I've got to click inside the window. Okay, now.
There we go. All right. And then F5. You want me to hit that?
Yeah,
or
go
you
ahead.
10-minute time limit. Oh, boy. If we didn't mention this in the thing, my conscience is not too clean at this point. But what can you do? This is exactly the way the old show used to do the updates. You'd have an update with Mean Gene, or sometimes you would get Lord Alfred Hayes. I always liked Lord Alfred Hayes. Do you remember him?
Lord Alfred Hayes, is he related to, wasn't Triple H's original last name Hayes too? Was
No.
it Horton something?
Hemsley.
Hensley, okay.
No, Lord Alfred Hayes he was a wrestler for a long time. I think he was known as Kung Fu Al Hayes for a while, and he stuck around. You gonna try to imitate Hulk here and read these? That'd be good.
All the media's coming down hard on Savage and Scary Share. It's funny.
That's pretty good.
Eep and I watched Rocky 3 today.
Oh,
and a great coincidence.
That's an excellent film.
It was the first time Eep had ever seen Mr. T before.
Really?
Which, we take Mr. T for granted in this country.
Right.
But he didn't export, and so I had to talk about how he was actually, on a kids show after he made Rocky and was kind of a good guy. And but it's an interesting film, Rocky 3. Mr. T it'd been so long since I'd seen it. He's so much more fit in that film than any of his later appearances.
Well, Stallone admitted that he had took mounds and mounds of steroids in the Rocky days. Mm-hmm. I have a feeling Mr. T might have dipped his toe in that pool as well.
It's possible.
Although, if you look back at Mr. T, he never had a steroid body, really. I mean, he really didn't. If you even in the movie, if you look how ripped and chiseled,
yeah, he's just
Stallone is. But he was awesome in that flick. Hulk was awesome. That was definitely the best of the bunch. Oh, here we go. Momentary pause.
Hopefully we didn't lock up here.
No, it takes a second here. Oh. There we go. It had to load that.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny that still photo before Howard Finkel here, it didn't look like the same arena that Howard's in. That looked like a smaller, like a TV shot.
Now, is Howard Finkel still in the game? Is he still?
He is the longest tenured WWF person on the roster, I think. I mean, he's been there forever. I'm trying to think if he predates like Pat Patterson, but I think he does. I mean, he's been around forever. He's always been great. He could still be great. The only reason they took him off TV is so they could put hot chicks in there, is that she was an outstanding manager back in the day. I met her.
Do you know anything about how she got into the game? Was Savage her first managee?
Oh God, no. She was around for the first time I ever saw her was when she broke in the AWA. This would have been the early '80s. I don't know if that was the first time she'd ever been in wrestling, but it's the first time I saw her, and you could tell right away she was going to be a real good worker. She was always fun to watch, and for a female, very vicious. But when she came here, there was no women's wrestling, really. There wasn't much going on, so she was a perfect fit for a manager, and there she went. So
she started out as a worker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. In fact, she wrestled, she was AWA Ladies Champion. I don't know if she ever captured the WWF title, because I don't know if it was being used at that time. I don't recall her having it, but she could have. She could have feuded with a few of the chicks that were out back in those days. Here comes Hulk.
There he is. Kind of. You never know it was him.
I will say he always weighed 302 pounds. If you read the old wrestling magazines and stuff, they always said his weight. I remember he weighed the same as Dusty. Okay, prepare for a beatdown. Let's see here. Yeah, you can't. It always does this. There you go. Now we've got Vince and Jesse.
Oh, it isn't actually going to let me.
You're moving for me.
I'm not moving at all. Wait a minute. Oh, okay. Okay, you try picking your move first. I think that's our problem. Okay, now I'll try and pick mine.
Yeah, but you're moving Savage. You're not moving Hulk.
Did we? We both picked the cross, though, right?
I did, yeah.
And I did too. Maybe my cross is a different...
Maybe there's another...
Try the, yeah.
Whoa. Something's going on here.
Yeah. I think I just picked head smash. Uh-oh. This could be it. Yep.
Choking him out. That's hard to believe that a 302-pound man could get choked down by Sherry.
I think this might be the end.
No. It is a DQ.
That's exactly what happened to me my first time.
That is unbelievable. Yeah, but how did I do that?
Well,
must have picked something.
The short answer is you didn't do that.
Wow.
So, congratulations to myself.
That stinks. I was robbed. Come on, Scary Sherry. She was not that bad of a rule breaker. Okay, let's see if we can get this sorted. I'll let you use the joystick. Since you've got a joystick, or
I don't know. I feel like we might have to. Let me see. I bet I can. Let me try using the mouse. Let's see. F3.
All right.
Let's start it up.
All right. I think you could skip watching this again.
Is there a way to do it?
I think there is. Let me.
Just don't hit anything crazy.
I think you've got to wait till I start talking. Yeah. Enter. I saw both these guys live a few times back in the day. And
who impressed you more in person? Savage?
Savage was awful good. Yeah, he was really good. All right, we're in business then, aren't we?
I'm going for the elbow.
Nope. Body block, baby.
Ooh, yeah. He looks a little bit like Undertaker right there.
He was a semi-pro baseball player.
Yeah, I'd heard that.
Yeah.
Down in Florida. I think he went to college a little bit or something, didn't he?
I think he was in the Reds organization briefly.
Sherry likes it, I guess, maybe.
Sherry was... I went to a show in Lexington, Kentucky. It was a very, very small, very poorly attended show, and she was running it. And she was super, super nice, too.
Was she like the lady that runs the Milton promotion?
No. Yes. She was super nice. I also met Larry Zabisco at that show. He was a pretty interesting cat. He taught me into buying his album. I've got it somewhere. It says 45 him singing.
Did he just have them for sale at the show?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember the guys I remember were he was there, Sherry was there, Mr. Hughes was there, which is probably a guy you probably don't even recall.
No.
He didn't really have a huge career, and I felt so bad for him. I bought a picture, and then when I went to get the picture, he goes, "No, not the glossy." He had photocopied them. He only had one glossy. He was photocopying the other ones. But and Bart Gunn was there. Remember the smoking guns?
No.
Yeah. Well, enough said.
Now this is Mean Gene down there in the lower right.
No. Oh God, no. That's poor Boat. Oh Lord. Did Jesse the Body Ventura?
Mean
Governor
Gene's got a mustache too, though.
Governor Ventura. Everyone had a mustache back then.
Now, Mean Gene.
Dadgummit.
How did he get his name? Because he doesn't look very mean. I mean, obviously this is not Mean Gene, but if you look at Mean Gene's picture, he looks kind of demure.
I think Hulk named him, but I don't know. I mean, Gene was around forever in the AWA again. He was another guy that got raided by Vince. So yeah, he was an AWA guy and announcer there for quite a while.
When I was a kid, I always just thought like it was something to do with Mean Joe Green.
What?
But now, as an adult, I realize it's a small chance.
Boy.
See, just a couple more frames of animation there could have really made a big difference.
I'm telling you, this was the way you do some of those full motion games. This goes a lot quicker, it seems like, when you're playing two-player.
Yeah, and you got somebody to talk to.
Is this the first time you ever played two-player at this Boat?
Yeah.
You didn't pick anything, Boat.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, I've never gotten blocked.
Yeah, I was just going to.
And today will be no exception.
Now, explain Snapmare to me.
That you grab them by the hair, you drop to one knee, and you kind of flip them over your shoulder.
Okay.
Yeah.
The wrist lock.
If this was Heenan, he always say, it was Gorilla Monsoon. This guy doesn't know a wrist lock from a wristwatch. That was his big line.
You don't see a lot of wrist locks anymore, do you? In wrestling these days?
No, wrestling's changed a lot. The way that they, the way that they go at a match. There's less time to kill. They want everything to be fast and the action to be furious, and they don't take the time to build a match like they did in the old days, where they would actually apply holds. It was more of a sport. There's that double axe handle I was talking about off the top rope on the floor.
You said that was the first time you'd seen somebody go off the top rope like that?
That was No, again, I'm not in Mexico. I'm sure they were doing it down there, but I'd never seen it. And I was a pretty big fan back in the day. There's everybody get the face. Oh.
Now, did Rocky 3 predate when Mr. T was at WrestleMania?
Oh yeah. Really, Rocky was the launching point for WWF Hulk Hogan.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, he was a player in the AWA, and as I recall, the story goes, Vince McMahon Senior, I think it was. I'm not sure it was junior or senior at the time. They didn't want Hulk to make the movie, and Hulk did it anyway. And so he was sort of on the outs with him, but it ended up being a huge hit. He came in kind of riding on the momentum of the original.
But it's funny because he's a heel in the movie, and he was always a face in WWF, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, pretty much. Technically he came back and after WCW folded and was with the NWO, but even then the crowd cheered him. He really hasn't ever been a bad guy there. But yeah, that was pretty much the beginning of things. I mean, I think shortly thereafter he ended up pinning the Iron Sheik in Madison Square Garden to win the world title, and Hulkamania kicked off from there. Although he was another guy who was this seems to be a recurring theme, but he was a big deal in the AWA. In fact, they advertised him after he left just to blow houses up. And you can imagine people weren't happy about that because he wasn't there. He'd already gone.
Now, was the AWA the New York promotion?
No, they were WWS, the New York promotion. The AWA was out of the Twin Cities.
Oh, okay.
And was popular for years and years. It was headed and owned by Vern Gagne, who was a big time amateur star in like the 50s. Former world champ. He started his own promotion. A lot of guys got their starts there, like or made their name there, like Mean Gene, Hulk. You had your Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect. He was a big deal there. So Vince took when Vince started taking over the country. The AWA was one of his favorite targets. He just basically fleeced them. He took everybody.
It's amazing how. I mean,
those kids are in the void. Especially the nerd kid.
He's in the back of the void. It's amazing how Vince, basically just took out every single other promotion in the whole country, every other major promotion.
The secret was videotape. He would sell his tapes to local TV stations across the country. And
would he sell them cheaper than the local shows would?
He had a better product, and so it allowed him to expand quickly. The other promoters, the wrestling was like of the mob. Everyone had their own territory that no one crossed over into. Even Vince's dad told Vince, like, don't, for God's sakes, don't cross over territories, and Vince didn't care. Vince saw the big picture that one promotion centrally located could take over the country, and that's exactly what he did. He took over quite easily, with the exception of the South, where NWA was still in power. But he pretty much took. It was basically those two. I mean, there were regional promotions that they sort of lumbered on, but they didn't have much steam. The AWA didn't really fold until the '90s, but it was pretty much toast.
When was the first year that the WWF was truly dominant compared to the other?
Well, if you want technically, what I would say would be 2001. That was the last year WCW was in operation. Early 2001, they folded, and WWF bought them and took over their, basically took over both promotions, and the rest is history. But up to that point, WCW gave them a hell of a run, and even was almost knocked them out of business for a while. But the tables turned, and basically the Stone Cold, when Stone Cold became very popular, it was a juggernaut.
Was Starrcade the WrestleMania, the WCW?
Yes. Well, at first it was the NWA's WrestleMania, and actually Starrcade was the round before WrestleMania. I got to stop trying that. Starrcade predates WrestleMania. It was very popular, super show. And Vince came around though, and he saw the success of Starrcade. He thought he could do a better job, and in some ways, the original WrestleMania was actually in a weird way funded by the NWA. Vince had cleverly came into Turner's old TV station and bought time where the old NWA show used to show every week, and put his show on, his taped show. Well, people lost their minds. Their Southern style wrestling was gone, and they didn't want to see this crap. And it was no good, I might add. It was called, that day was called Black Saturday, I believe was what it was called. It was the day that Vince kicked the other show off the air. But Turner was so desperate to get the NWA back on his show, on his channel, him and Crockett got together, and Crockett paid, which Crockett owned the NWA promotion that had been on TV. He paid Vince a large sum of money to get that slot back, and Vince used that money to fund WrestleMania. So they, in an odd way, they were funding their own demise, unfortunately.
When did the NWA change to WCW?
Oh boy, right off the top of my head, it was their show was called World Championship Wrestling for years. It was World Championship Wrestling sanctioned by the NWA. The NWA was a loose conglomerate of promoters that formed a big massive organization, and it had, I mean, at one time it spanned all over the world. I mean, members of the NWA were like New Japan Pro Wrestling, World Class Championship Wrestling. They were wrestling promotions in Portland and other places that were part of the NWA. Memphis, they were part of the NWA, and so the NWA World Champion would tour all these promotions and wrestle their main guy, draw a house, and it worked out real well for a long time. But eventually, World Championship Wrestling basically just kind of dropped out of the NWA, and because they really didn't need them at that point. And so while they still kind of were the NWA, they weren't sanctioned by the NWA, the actual organization. The NWA is still around, but
So
it's very
the NWA
indie.
never actually turned into WCW. WCW was always a completely separate
WCW, no, well, I mean, WCW basically split away from the NWA. Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to think of the year that. I mean, I remember there was a weird series of events that happened that they ended up causing them to split away. But dun 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 dun.
Finally worked.
Oh yeah! This was always an awesome move.
I'm really glad there's a mute button on these microphones. I'm coughing my head off.
You know, Luke's got a cough tonight as well.
Oh, remind me, I've got a little present for Luke before you go.
Ooh,
Wait a minute, that's the end?
Yes, sir.
See, wow. Well,
You want to give Hulk and DiBiase a try real quick?
Let's do it.
An incredible display of power. That man went on to be governor of Minnesota. I was talking to you the other day at WrestleMania when Savage lost his career to the Ultimate Warrior. Scary Sherry turned on him and put the boots to him. Mm-hmm. Lovely Miss Elizabeth came out of the crowd to beat up Sherry and help her man. They reunited. It was very touching. Women were crying in the stands. It was quite a scene. Oh. I love it. Poor Hulk. His sad face.
Yeah. You know, if you just look at him from the neck up, you wouldn't think that this guy would be the most powerful, most famous wrestler of all time. He's got that weird bald mullet look.
Okay, let me see if I can get this going here. F1. Now, what are you playing this on your? Okay, hold on a second here. Let me take care of business here.
Here's a trackpad.
Yeah. Okay, I see that thing here. Oh, folks, we're switching discs here. Hold on a second here. Here, can you hold that for a second, sir? We're gonna. Whoa. I can't move too far. Okay. I can't see what I just did.
Yeah, hold on a second.
Here, click, go up. I want you to cancel out whatever I just did. Sorry, folks. We're gonna switch discs. Go to the discs. Disk drive, floppy drive. I should say. It's keep going up, right there. Okay, right there. Hit. Go over to the little dots beside eject, and put in the. You know how to do it. Put in disc 2. And then hit OK. And then hit return. And then hand me the keyboard. All right. Smooth. No one will ever know. Yeah, here we go. It worked like a charm, Boat. All right, we're starting this sucker off. Bam. Let's avoid piracy. You remember when those were in everything? Those world search word things?
It's funny because I went straight from an Atari to the consoles, and I never had any real cracked software. So this is all new to me. I mean, I had all kinds of it on the Atari, but they didn't have cracked screens and stuff like that for some reason. Versus, on the C64 on the Amiga, that stuff. I don't know. It's weird how that happened.
I was a bad boy in my youth, and was a adept at the bad art of piracy. So I saw many of those. It's funny because I've got a pretty decent library of Amiga games now. I mean, of the actual discs. I've kind of took a page out of Shane Monroe's book. I always liked Shane. I was really into his podcast, Retro Gaming Radio, back in the day. I still listen to his show, which is called Passenger Seat Radio. But Shane did this awesome thing with the C64 where he felt bad for all the years of piracy that he'd put in. So he went out to build this shrine and buy all the games that he pirated back in the day. And so I kind of feel like I need to do that too. That's quite a pair right there.
What's Virgil's story?
Virgil's a guy that was just an indie guy. I wish I could remember his indie name, but they just brought him in to be this guy. And pretty much this was his guy most of the time. He eventually Ted DiBiase turned on him, and he ended up being a good guy for a while, but he was not that good at that. He was not a great wrestler, but for a guy of his caliber, he actually stuck around for a long time. He ended up being in the NWO for a long time at
Really?
WCW. Oh, yeah. He tours all over the place. He's one of the masters of autograph shows and stuff. He's everywhere, and he always gets some attention, But he's sort of a wrestling in joke now. It's like, well, we know who's going to be at this autograph signing. It's the same guy that's always there. That belt was awesome too. The
$1 million belt.
Did you ever see the episode where he got that?
No.
He went to this jeweler or whatever to make the belt, and he shows up at the door in a full cape, right? And he busts through the door and he goes, "I'm here!" He throws the cape off, and this guy presents him with the belt, and he cackles like a Bond villain. He's like,
Now, it's funny reading wrestling magazines back in the day. Were all the wrestling magazines kayfabe?
yes.
Okay.
They were all crap. I mean, they were all just made up stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but they were a big deal because no one had the internet. And the only way, I know for me personally, I was right in the mix. If I wanted to know what was going on in Portland or down in Texas, that's it, And Lord, if you wanted to find out what was going on in Japan, you were boned,
Oh, yeah.
So they were a good source of who was doing well, what was happening. But I mean, the stories. I remember we used to get this magazine called Wrestling Eye, and they would interview someone, and they'd be like, "So, Jake, what belts have you held?" He'd be like, "I have held the following titles," and he would just list them all. It's like, this is not a realistic interview unless he's a robot. He'd be like, the Intercontinental belt, the tag belt. Yeah.
Now, when did the Intercontinental belt? Has that always existed?
No.
Did they invent that belt for the Ultimate Warrior?
No, God, no. They did invent the belt. Allegedly, it was won in a tournament in Buenos Aires, I believe it was. It was somewhere real exotic, and I think it was Pat Patterson that won it back in the 78 or something like that. Nope, we got the same commentating crew for this one.
I do have a couple extra moves I didn't have before, and of course you've got the Wall Street Stomp.
I like the crash. Man, right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate. You never see that in a real match.
Look at na.
It's funny because there was a team of people that selected what photos they'd use. Like, we need to go with that one.
That had like 5 or 6 frames
That was
right
pretty
there.
good,
That's
yeah.
one of the most expansive moves in the game. There's the kid with the doll. Get used to that, folks. Uh-oh.
Huh?
I'll tell you, when Hose was younger, our buddy Hose, he looked just like Ted DiBiase. I used to call him the $1 Million Man.
Wow.
And he could do the laugh and sing the song, too.
What's the song?
You know, money,
All that.
money.
Okay,
That one. That awesome tune he did. I love that song. Also, Ted has one of the best elbow drops. And if you ever see the top, his middle, not this one, but he'll put a guy in the corner, and he'll go to the top rope looking out toward the crowd and just tip over backwards like Nesty Pledge and just stick his arm out. It's so great. It never hits either, so he always lands on his ass.
Can't go wrong with the chop.
Yeah, you can.
Unless you go wrong with the chop. Ted DiBiase looked to already be kind of old by this.
Well, they
by
had
this
his head. His hair was colored in an odd way, and it doesn't translate well in this little digitizy mess. Ted was a real seasoned pro well before he got here. His dad was a pro. I believe his father died in the ring.
Wow.
Iron Mike DiBiase. But Ted had a big name before he came here, and this was Vince, from what I heard, pretty much custom made this character for Ted. It was a great fit, and Ted pulled it off great because he's really good. I'm beating you like a dog.
Yeah, this is not going well. I have to rely on the punch.
Uh-oh.
Wow.
I figured I was on a roll,
Yeah.
and so did Jesse. Oh, there's this big fist drop.
This could be it.
No, not in a minute. That would be the end of Hulkamania for sure. Look at that. No.
Oh.
All kicked out. The way the screen flashed, that was disturbing as hell.
All right, block. It's never failed before.
Straight punch to the face. Man, you're getting beat like a dog on this one.
I think there is some sense of momentum though. Like you get in one of these matches, because that's what happened with one of the matches that I played. I didn't lose any of the things. I hit every single move I tried. It's maybe just like that.
I'm gonna give you one here. Yeah.
Okay.
The thing is, I hit my finisher. I don't know what I could do. Try to hit it again. You know, Ted had an awesome power slam. I'm surprised they didn't put that in here.
Is a power slam where you like fall down with them?
Yeah, you pick him up and spin around. And, it's an awesome move, and his was particularly fine. He had one of the top one or two best power slams in wrestling.
Oh.
Duh. It's too bad Hogan got over, because I wouldn't mind seeing Thunder Lips as a character.
Yeah.
In the flesh, baby. With all his chicks. That was awesome.
It was so funny because I had completely forgotten that he was in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rocky 3, not as bad as I thought it was going to be, because I'd always, 1 and 2, of course, are classics.
Oh, yeah. 3's where it went from beyond, like, the movie realm and went to the wacky realm,
Yeah.
but the wacky realm's great.
Yeah, it's still a good movie.
It's my favorite.
Even
only
though
because
Rocky's
it's
super
ludicrous.
ultra rich, whenever he trains in downtown LA, he still lives in the slum,
The second one's depressing, too, because they smashed that Rocky pinball machine. I always get mad about that. I hate that drunk goof he's got
Yeah.
there. Oh, you doing that, Mick? What was the
Paulie.
guy's name? Paulie, that's right.
That's not a real pinball machine, is it?
Yeah, Rocky's got a pinball machine. I
Did,
don't know
did
if
the back glass look like that?
I don't remember.
It looked pretty... There you go.
Stick a fork in him. He's done.
Well, folks, that was Micro League Wrestling.
Sorry, Boat. I didn't mean for it to go like that. But, hey, maybe there is something about this. An awesome battle of wills that lasted 2 minutes.
All right, well, hold on a second. I'm going to stop this stream and start a new one. I've got a little surprise for you for a couple minutes.
Oh, Lord. He's the master of these surprises. Look, there's me getting my belt presented to me. If you're bored at home, you got an Amiga, check it out. It's an interesting little game. It's if you're into wrestling, it's fun to look back and see what was going on, back in the day. Wrestling's changed a lot. If you were a fan back when this game would have been released, and you're still a fan, you're probably a lot like me, just sort of hanging on by a thread. So, what are you up to, Boat?
I'm just waiting for you to close it on out.
Oh, so that's the end of that, folks. Have a good night, and we'll see you next time.